All right, thank you very much, sir. We will now call the Legislative Committee meeting to session into order. Sharita, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd.
Present.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderman Coder.
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Muhammad.
Here.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Present.
Alderwoman Martin.
Present.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Here.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Chairman Balmer.
Present.
President Reed.
Here.
11 present, you have quorum.
Sharita, thank you so much. I will now move for approval of the minutes from yesterday, October 20th, 2021. Entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes from yesterday.
Second.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. Sharita, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Coder.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin.
Aye.
Alderwoman Navarro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Chairman Balmer.
Aye.
President Reed. President Reed.
Aye.
11 aye votes.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we've approved the minutes of yesterday's meeting. We will hold excused aldermen until the end of the meeting, and we'll proceed to Board Bill 101. Today we have an overview of the software. President Reed, your show.
Right, thanks, and thanks to each and every one of you. So what I plan to do is just a real quick overview today of what IT has set up on the computer. Again, I keep giving them kudos because they've really been working to get everything set and ready to go for us here. So as everyone knows, the application we're using is Maptitude by Caliper. It's kind of the industry standard for redistricting. And let me see about.
Are you going to be doing a screen share with us, Mr. President? There we go.
See it?
Yeah, we have it now.
Once you create a plan, this is essentially the screen that you'll see. And let me just go through a couple things here. So under redistricting, under this top menu, when you go to redistricting, you click Plan Manager, and from Plan Manager, this is where you create your first template for the plan, right, or the redistricting map that you're going to create. In our library, we have the, St. Louis City, and this is the directory that it's in. So as part of the initial software install, they had the Senate districts and the House districts, the existing Senate and House districts, and part of the library that will be installed a little bit later today will be the 2010 map for the full Board of Aldermen, so that we can do a compare and contrast as we move forward. You can also set up to work on plans as part of a library. So you can put multiple plans within a library and work on those, in conjunction. This is where you set up specific templates for plans. So there may be some standards that we want in a plan that we would have baked into a template. So when we create new plans, you create it based on that template. Just like under plan libraries, but you can also have sets of plans where you work on them in conjunction. So this is where you define your plan sets. But this is an area that I think is important because when we drew the last map 10 years ago, these reports come in so handy. And this is where I think Maptitude distinguishes itself from some of the other competitors. The detail within their reports and the fact that their reports can catch and find a lot of things within your plan as you're creating it, right? So when you look through this, you can see like you can generate a report see how continuous and compact your wards are, the areas that you're drawing. You can check for errors, efficiency gaps, majority, minority districts. This report is one that we will be very familiar with at the end. Remember myself, Phyllis Young, and Terry Kennedy just printed many of these reports. This is the meets and bounds report. And what that report is, it prints out a complete rundown on what the map is. So all the boundaries, all the streets and intersections. So all that language that has to be in place to capture all the different components and the boundaries of those wards that we ultimately end up with will come from that report. As we go through this process, this report will be printed out many, many times. It'll be distributed to members of the committee and anyone else who would like to get a copy of it. They'll be able to review it. And it's really important because ultimately that's what ends up in the board bill. And if anything is wrong in those boundaries, it will, affect that ultimate board bill. So that is absolutely essential. And then when we look here where we say measures of compactness, what happened here?
We lost you, Mr. President, as far as your audio.
Right. So we can also, sorry, my screen went black for me. We can also do measures of compactness. So when we print out a report, after we finish our first run of a district map, right, of a city map, we will run this report for measures of compactness so that we can see, if indeed we meet the measures of compactness that we want to meet, right? Or we're striving to meet, we'll utilize that report to do that there. So I'm gonna go to just a sample plan that we have created here. So when you create a plan, this is the screen that you're presented with, right? On the left-hand side, you'll see Display Manager that has all of the various different layers that are included within that plan. And then on top, you'll see the data view. So this data view right now, only thing you see in this one green line is the population of 301,578 with a deviation of 280,000, right? You see the white population in the city is 132,292, and that represents 43.87% of the population. The Black population is 129,814, which is 43.04%, and the rest being other. So when you look at this, what that tells us right off is that essentially, when we finish drawing this map, at minimum, we need to have at least 50% African-American or minority preference wards within the city of St. Louis and within the maps that we're drawing, because the population numbers essentially show that. The other thing is when we drill down to some of the others, where there's the next biggest population is, looks like it'll be Asian at 4%. You know, if we can either through communities of interest or whatever, capture some of that, that's also important. But let me go back here real quick. So down here at the bottom, when you see where it says example Board of Aldermen map, so under here, under display manager, these are the various different layers that are available on this map. So, you know, tiger lines and segments are, you know, what the U.S. Census Bureau uses to identify geographic areas within a metropolitan area. So the tiger lines in the city of St. Louis roughly match the boundaries of our streets. So when we go to streets and we turn our streets on here, you see where they are almost identical to the tiger line. So, so for our purposes, we really don't have to, you know, show tiger lines for the things that we're working on. They've also have the IT department has also loaded some land area, landmark areas. And I'll zoom out here so you can see these things pop up when you come up. So you'll see those pop up when we turn these on and off. So there's various different landmark areas. Those things can come in handy, especially when we're looking at communities of interest and various different things like that. And then some US landmarks, that's also loaded in there for us. Water areas, return US streets on, and then our streets here. And then river, and then, but here's the important part, census blocks. So when you define a plan, part of what you do is to say what that plan is going to be based on. Is it going to be based on a metropolitan area? It's going to be based on census tracts or census blocks and so on and so forth. The difference in census tracts and census blocks are for our purposes, the lowest common denominator. That's the base that we're going to be building on. A census tract, what the U.S. Census Bureau tries to do is to keep census tracts into a population of roughly 4,000. So when we're looking at census tracts, if you were going to compare, they would be more like zip codes, but they're smaller segments than zip codes. But you would look at it sort of like a zip code, and a census block would be like the block that you're living on or whatever, right? That's kind of a good comparison. But when we scroll in after turning on census blocks, you can see the various different census blocks. You'll see them identified by the number. And if we hover over them, it'll show us, you know, what that census block is made of. So we have in this particular census block, the population is 88. And then the white population is 72. Black population is 1, Asian 15, and so on and so forth. But when we click on the census block, more information about what's in that block. So, and this is, a lot of this is what we will be looking at as we're working through drawing this map, right? Because when we really get down to trying to, you know, keep neighborhoods together, also meeting our obligations under state, federal, and local laws so that we do not create a map that will be challenged in court and thrown out. We're going to really be digging down in these census blocks because it's going to be almost a block by block thing to ensure that we meet the requirements by state and federal law, you know, with the Voting Rights Amendment and so on and so forth. So I just want to real quickly show you. So once you get into these census blocks, you can go down and you'll see it'll break down by the population that's over 18, under 18, you know, Black, white, other, and so on and so forth. And that's under multi-layer information. And there's another multi-layer information that gives you a little bit higher level of detail where it just says this is in the 17th Ward, 1st Precinct, right? City of St. Louis, so on and so forth. So that's the information that you get from those census blocks. And going down now, you know, I don't think railroads are going to make much difference for us. Voting districts, the voting districts, the way it's set up in here right now are by ward precinct, right? So what you see drawn out here is ward and precinct. So when I pull this down, you'll see what I mean. So you see like this here, St. Louis, 17th Ward, 2nd Precinct, you know, and so on and so forth. That's and that's voting districts. That kind of talks to you a little bit about the census blocks, the districts, and so on and so forth. So once we begin drawing boundaries, you know, and I said it, and I will repeat it again, down through this central corridor is going to, because of the amount of population in the central corridor and the diversity of the central corridor. So essentially in the city of St. Louis, you have largely African-American up north. You have the Delmar Boulevard, Delmar Divide, and just to the south of the Delmar Divide, all the way up through the 6th Ward, you have a more diverse population that is going to be really key for us to capture when we begin drawing these maps and you know, and be able to draw them so that we can meet our state and federal requirements for drawing the map. And then the further south you get, the less diverse the wards get, except for in a couple instances, like in the 20th Ward, you know, there's a very diverse population. The 25th Ward, there's some diverse population. And then in the, like around the Bevo Mill area, we've seen you know, a much higher increase of African-American population around the Bevo Mill area. But then down closer to the central corridor, when you get to like the 15th ward and the 8th ward and some of those wards, we've seen a leveling off, and in some neighborhoods, an actual decrease in the African-American population. So those things are going to be the things that we're going to be challenged with. It's going to be really key to dig down into the census blocks as we go along to make sure that we meet our requirements for drawing this map. And you know, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give a quick overview of it. We're going to and to also thank the IT people for, you know, working morning, noon, and night to get this thing up and going. This was more of a challenge because of the, you know, the time we live in and the attacks that these data systems get, you know, quite regularly. The other thing is any of the data updates, as data updates become available, they will automatically be loaded up into our system. Part of what will happen today is other data points will be added to you know, our system. Like, you know, we do have some school data in here, some other things like that. Let me turn on some of these things. Here's landmarks. So when we zoom in, so, you know, it's going to be really important for us to be able to identify some of the public schools and various different things like that. Some of those landmarks will help all of us as we're drawing the map to be able to, you know, key in on locations and work to keep neighborhoods and stuff together as much as possible. Let me add a layer, because we do have the information for neighborhoods, I believe.
Now, these are the neighborhoods as defined by the city neighborhood map, and not because within some neighborhoods there are neighborhood organizations that, you know, people call that, you know, they're not defined by the map, like in Northampton or Southampton. There's little entities of, you know, Tilly's Park Neighborhood Association, Kings Highway Hills, things such as that. You know, people were curious about that. You know, some of the questions I'm getting, but this will show the map of the neighborhoods as defined by the city of St. Louis. So I can't hear your audio.
For example, let me load up. I'm going to load, before I get to neighborhoods, I want to load this. This is kind of interesting. So this is TIF districts, right? The TIF districts. So let me make those. So when we look at this now, you see the various different TIF districts. Let me turn a couple things off here so you can get a better feel for what we're looking at. So if you look at this will show us like the various different TIF districts that are in the city of St. Louis also. So, you know, if someone says, well, you know, we want to apply for a community of interest because all of our SIDs or whatever, or this business community will be impacted if it's divided across multiple wards. We will have that information. So some information like that is also being added in. But this will show you all the various different TIF districts within the city of St. Louis. Let me loading. So, you can, really quickly see the various different voting, the different TIF districts that are within the city of St. Louis. So this is Edison Brothers Warehouse, Ballpark Lofts, Shuttle Compton. You have Magnolia and Thurman, Shenandoah Place, and so on and so forth. So we'll be able to identify those districts. I know the alderman from the, let me add this other layer while, for neighborhoods, while the alderman from the, it looks like the vice chair has a question.
I do. Thank you, Mr. President. Just for clarity, I noticed across the top of the screen, the previous screen you had up, it had deviation of like 1,200 people or something like that, 1,300 people. Do that mean that as the ward boundaries are redrawn, that some of the wards could be, I'm just gonna make this up, 10,000, and another ward is 11,000 because of 1,000 deviation?
Oh, what we want to do is keep it within, I think 5% is a top, right? But the further we make that deviation, the more apt we would be to get into violating one person, one vote measure. So what kind of the standard that you see used most places is around 5%. As a matter of fact, when we create a plan within Maptitude, that's the number that is automatically in there. You have to change it from 5%, but 5% is the number that they have in there.
Okay, so that's my point is everybody won't have exactly the same amount of people. Some people have a little less than the magic number, a little more than the magic number.
Yes, and that magic number is somewhere around 21,000.
I believe it's 21,465 is the number they're looking for.
That's it.
Yeah, but I mean, I believe that there's a thing called de minimis, which allows up to 10%, but they don't like to go that high. So 5% is pretty much the standard. Alderman Boyd, the president.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And so they have historic districts there. We have parks already in there, real estate tax abatement. So we can look at, where the majority of the tax abatements are in the city of St. Louis at the same time. So if we, for whatever reason, that information is important or requested by any member of the Board of Aldermen or, any member of the public that thinks that that's something that's important to look at. We have that. So that's what you see now identified in the green boxes, but let me change that so that we can more readily identify that. Let's make that pink. So now you see all of the pink boxes represent areas that or properties that have been tax abated in the city. And if you notice, you get over close to this 23rd ward and there aren't any pink boxes over there. 23rd.
We don't go for pink boxes over here.
Yeah, yeah. And the 16th ward, there are very few in the 16th ward, 13th and 11th ward, very few. But when you get into the central corridor, that's where you're seeing the majority of those. So you can see that represented here by all of the various different, all the pink boxes. And then, you know, just north of Del Mar, some of the neighborhoods there have been picking up and beginning to do more tax abatements over there, which is absolutely needed. So let me add a couple more layers here just so you can see what some of the data that's being added in here for us, like for police districts. So this is the police districts that were created in 2014. And again, even though to blue. So real quick, let me turn some of this other stuff off so you can see the police district. So we'll leave real estate tax abatement TIFs, and turn districts off, voting districts off. So you can see here represented in the blue lines. Let me turn the label. Let me put some labeling on it so you know which district is which. So this represents the police districts. So we have 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and District 6. So we have that information in there also, just in case, again, you know, while we're going through this, people feel like it'd be important to know where those district boundaries are. And if those boundaries will stay in place for a significant amount of time, it may make sense to help that ward be contained within that district boundary.
Yeah,
I thought we had neighborhoods, but maybe it's not in there right now. But
I believe that. My understanding is they should be in there.
Yeah, but there's a new one of that was downloaded from the cities. Yeah. So what I'll do is it's probably on this system here somewhere, but not in the in this directory, because this is oh, boom, there it is. It was in awards. Perfect. All right. So let's turn the labels. Let's turn name. I'm gonna do multiple fields for this one. So we can do the name or street name and a couple other things, but I want to add name and, well, let's just do name right now, but we'll come back to it.
Can we remove the TIF information?
Yeah, I'll remove that in 1 second. I want to.
Okay, thank you.
Get this plugged in. You don't like the TIF information, Joe?
I've only had one in my lifetime over here.
Not of much of an interest to you. So here we go. So if we take real estate tax abatement off, that may be good information here in a second. So here are the neighborhoods, right? And we can, interesting when you put, when you drop in there the real estate tax abatement. So what you're seeing now are the neighborhoods with the real estate tax abatement in it, right? And I want to go here to census blocks real quick because I want to see if we can find a quick example. So when we look at these census blocks, let's get down here toward the central corridor area, like I was talking about. Streets. So this is Del Mar Boulevard right here. You see it?
Yes, sir.
Del Mar Boulevard. So if we come to one side of Del Mar Boulevard and let's go a block over here and check the racial makeup of this block, right? So this is Lewis Place. This is in Lewis Place neighborhood. So if we come here to Lewis Place neighborhood and we come down to population. So the population is 60 and all 60 are African-American in that block. And then we go 2 blocks this way on Del Mar and we just randomly pick and we'll see. So once you come over there, the population is 44 and 13 white, 21 African-American. That's 2 blocks to the south of Del Mar. And, you know, the further out you go, you see those numbers change pretty dramatically. So we have our work cut out for us to be able to make all that work. And again, that's why the central corridor is going to be essential, and us looking at these on a block by block basis. But when we look at police districts, so when we overlay police districts, so one of our recommendations long-term is if we're gonna try to keep neighborhoods together, maybe it also makes a sense that we match these police districts up also, so that I'm going to change the color of it so that you can better see it, so that these policing districts follow a little bit closer the neighborhood boundaries, because they don't follow either. Let's change it to a different. Get to and take some of the other stuff off the map so then you'd be able to better see it. Tax abatements off, census blocks off. So look down, I may have to make it a little more defined for you. But if you look down, so you see this represents the policing districts, right? And if I turn these off and on so you can see, so that's our policing districts. When we overlay neighborhoods on top of policing districts, particularly when you look like right here, some of these areas right here, you can see how those areas are you know, cut in two across those neighborhoods. Matter of fact, it would probably be easier for us to get some of these policing districts in the same neighborhood opposed to some of the wards, but because we're under some of the state and federal restrictions for, you know, Voting Rights Act and some of the other things. It's kind of interesting to see that too. But that kind of gives you.
There's a chance that the 6th district could actually be one ward with the population up there. Almost.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But so what we're doing the rest of the day is, you know, just enriching the data set, completing the enrichment of the data set. You know, the system is essentially ready right now for us to start drawing lines. The enriched data set just gives us more information so that as we begin this process, virtually whatever someone asks for, we can real quickly reference it, right? If there's a decision point to be made about whatever, right? Landmarks or whatever, those things will all be in there. You know, the census block data, the most important piece is the census block data, the census tract data. All of that information is already in there, ready to go. You know, we could essentially start drawing a map right now, you know, today if we wanted to. You know, drawing the map, I always say, is one of the easiest points once you get through all of the other pieces that you need to define what that map looks like, right? So that's part of what you know, those two groups that you're working to put together, Mr. Chairman, will help us get to the bottom of and be able to lay out.
All right. Thank you for that. We're going to go through the committee, see if they have any questions about what we've seen, and if they can, you can answer them. Now, the software, and you're quite adept. I know this is your field of work, IT, but are there, I guess there's still available help from the software company in case it comes with a support package, I'm guessing?
Yes, yeah, we made sure to get the support package.
All right, I hope we didn't cheap out on ourselves. All right.
Oh, no.
All right. Okay, well, we're going to go through the committee and Alderman Bard, any questions of the president and this software?
No, it just looks like it's going to be fun.
That's the key word, yes. Alderman Davis, have you joined us? I don't see her.
I am here.
Oh, good. Thank you. Any questions of Mr. President?
Mr. President, I wanted to ask, I was just, as you were talking, I was going through the process that we went through on the previous redistricting. And I do remember on occasions when we maybe only needed, say, 5 additional people to satisfy a particular ward. And we always tried to make sure that the least, I guess I would say the least effectiveness of that would be taking the priorities that are listed for us to cover. And I think a lot of times when we talk casually about this, people don't understand oh, my screen went away. There we go. That how much we have before us as far as guidelines and requirements.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm hoping that you'll have an opportunity also to connect with the planning division, because they've done so much in preparation for this new effort with neighborhood planners working in wards to help with economic development. So they've got some very strong maps now that define neighborhoods. They have all the information for the various neighborhood associations, business associations, and all of that already listed. I've seen the maps for my ward, and I'm sure others have seen theirs. But it would kind of be good to get that information and put it in here.
That's part of and you raised a very good point. You said it without me saying it. A lot of this additional data that we're talking about, a lot of that's going to come from the Planning Commission, right? Okay. Through their open data. So those shape files will all be loaded into our system so that, you know, any of those types of things that we want to reference. And, you know, that's part of what the chairman, I know, has asked about, and the vice chairman has asked about, and both of them are working on, is to define what neighborhoods are organized and what neighborhoods need additional organizational help. So part of what that data will show us is what, you know, the status of those neighborhood organizations, you know, if indeed they have an active neighborhood organization or not, that information will be in that data set, and we'll be able to pull it up as we're going through drawing the maps, and also reach out to some of those neighborhood organizations and folks like that too, if we feel there's a need to do that.
I agree. And 10 years ago, I was closer in my memory bank for all these various neighborhoods across the city. But I do know that some of them could have as many, say for instance, I know back in the day in Soulard, I think at one point we had reached 5 different neighborhood associations. One was a restoration group, and one was this, and one was that. So, you know, it's good to get that up-to-date factual information before us.
Yes, and it absolutely is. That's why this rich data set is just going to be so important and key as we're going through it, so that we can, you know, make sure that we have, you know, all of that information right at our fingertips. But then I think also on the back end of this process, I think the board should maintain, you know, a good data set. I think is important, because a lot of the bills and stuff we're looking at, a lot of times people will inquire or ask about the data and what the data looks like. So, you know, we'll be able to real quickly reference that. So I think that it will be helpful even after this process, just to keep a good data set going and enrich it even ourselves to some of the things that we want to, because we can do things like match specific board bills to specific areas. So if there's a board bill that targets a neighborhood or a block or a community or whatever, we can have that in there. If there is, you know, something doing with public safety, that information can be in there and handy, so that when you're preparing for a debate, or if you're preparing your questions, you will have a tool to be able to, you know, call down, and the staff can, you know, generate the reports for you right away, so you have everything that you need going into that meeting.
That'll be extremely helpful. Well, I didn't have any other specific questions. I was just, you know, thinking back, and I know this is extraordinary for the Board of Aldermen to have so few people on the board that have gone through a redistricting. I think it's only 5 of us there, at 5 or 6 at this point. that actually have gone through redistricting before. So it's a learning process for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's gonna, it's gonna be important that, some of that information is passed to some of the new aldermen who are just, about to experience this thing for the first time. I'm looking at, you all see me about to load, historic districts. Yeah, those certainly communities of interest once we look at some of the historic districts and how those overlap and impact neighborhoods and where they reside also, right? Because the elected official that works within those historic districts, where they're very active historic districts, leveraging historic tax credits and some of those things, and preservation of buildings and things of that nature, you end up with a constituency that values, the preservation of those things, which is why those historic districts grew up in some of those areas. So,
Right.
Like for example, I just threw historic districts in there because that's one of the pieces that they had available, IT had available for me to throw in there. But, I'm really happy where we're at. I think we're going to be able to get through drawing a map fairly swiftly, especially given the challenges for this type of map. And we're going to be able to answer questions really quickly when people need, have a question about what's in that community, what the data looks like. It's going to be there and available and quick to reference.
Okay, well, looks like we're off to a good start, and I know we will continue to evolve and put more precision to it. And I appreciate this. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Vaccaro, any questions or comments of the president in his presentation?
No, I have none. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Alderman Coder. Alderman from the 7th, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry. I guess this question is probably for the president. He may have mentioned this earlier. We've got all these different data sets in here. When are we going to have the existing ward boundaries to at least look at them?
We have that. We have that.
We have.
Yeah. Let me see if I can throw it in there real quick.
I don't. As long as they're in there somewhere, I assume they would be.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is at the top. So, I mean, how many licenses do we have for this software? I mean, do the committee members have access to a copy of it, or is it just just computer?
No, it's just on this one system that we have set up, that IT has set up for us. It'll be the one working system that we have. That way, all the data updates and any alterations and changes is monitored and managed very closely. And I can't tell you how important that is. During that last redistricting, we would finalize a map on a Friday, and one older person, and I'm not going to mention their name, they were very active on the weekends. so we would come in on Monday, and all the people would look at it and be screaming because they're like, well, that's not what we left, where we left things off on Friday. So we had to get together and pull that person aside, say, hey, you cannot, you just cannot, that is way out of bounds. You cannot be in there changing things over the weekend. So this process, if you would normally see, smoke ghosts or whatever, this is going to be that on steroids. So I think it's going to be absolutely essential that we manage the data and, any changes that people may want to try to implement. And that would be out of bounds without going through the proper process.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Boyd, still with us? All right, Alderman Muhammad.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. President, for the presentation. I look forward to looking at the information.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Alderman Oldenburg.
2010.
I got nothing. Thank you. I'm good right now.
Thank you. Alderman Martin.
Hi, yes. So I have not been through redistricting before for the Board of Aldermen, but I have done it in the legislature as a staff person. And we did use Maptitude. So when we used Maptitude, the clerk's office had the main license, but each caucus and different staff people were able to have essentially like sub accounts. So we could play with it without, messing with the main account. Is that not available anymore?
Not with the licensing that we have. It is, hold a second, I'm showing this thing. Getting this for the alderman from the 7th real quick. So the ward boundaries. No, that is not what we have set here.
Is that something that as a committee we could decide and change, or is it only the president's office that makes these decisions?
Well, look, I think number one, I think that we had great success managing this the way we're doing now the last time, where we held people to certain criteria. We didn't arbitrarily change maps. We didn't have a whole bunch of different maps running around out there with everybody having their various different maps and saying, this is the map we want to move. And I think that is a train wreck waiting to happen. So, the way we have it set now is everything's going to be available. There's a process for making changes to it. We keep chaos down that way, opposed to having 4 or 5 maps show up on the floor of the Board of Aldermen when we're working to finalize this thing, especially given the type of redistricting we're going into. I remember during that last redistricting, the board, using the process we were using, we got through it much quicker than the state or anybody did, because we just had some things in place that gave people comfort level that we weren't going to just, have, competing interests and competing maps out there.
So the other thing is that Maptitude at the time, and maybe this has changed, offered free webinars with the license. Will we have a chance to have a webinar with the Maptitude staff, with their IT staff?
Yeah, if you want to, we can do that. I think that would be good. Okay.
And then it was my understanding that we were going to have 2 staff people assigned to help, additional staff people. Will we have that?
Yes, we're working on that also.
On hiring someone, or?
I'm talking to the clerk about it. With COVID and the staff working from home, they may be able to. He may have some resources that are available within the current pool. So I'll be able to give you an update on that at the next meeting.
Okay. My concern is we're a little behind just because we have had this data for a while, and
no, not really. Sort of. We haven't been sitting on this data since the first year or anything. Remember, the data was just released. We just received the data 3 weeks ago or something like that, 4 weeks ago.
We have known. I mean, just as far as hiring staff, and we have known for a while. So I'm just sharing my concern. Thank you. That's all I have.
Anything further? All right. Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you. I did see that Alderwoman Davis's hand just went back up, so I don't know if you wanted to go back to her.
Well, we'll let you. She's already spoken once. We'll go back around.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I do understand that the data was late this year for everybody. The block data, though, has been available since the end of August. And I do know that there are already folks out there who have been, looking at this stuff for a while. So I do share the same concern as my colleague, just in terms of where we are in terms of timing. And it does, even though I was not here the last time we did redistricting, it seems like a couple of things are different. One being that this software, there is a variety of different types of software that is available. The community is already looking at this. And so I do feel like we're a little bit of a disadvantage because it sounds like we still haven't even uploaded the most recent data into the system. So I want to let you know that I'm available to help in any way that I can, because I have been following some of the community efforts to get this data out there and to start looking at maps. So one, I do think that even though we might just have, I'm surprised that we only have one user for this license, because I'm sure we probably paid a pretty penny for it. But even though that's only available on one computer, there are many other programs out there that people are working with maps. And so I think the more access that we can have to it, the better able we're going to be able to engage in this process. I think the other thing that's changed is that because we're going from 28 to 14, we're not going to be able to just start from where the old wards were and kind of massage the boundaries based on new numbers. And I would really just put forth that we look seriously at those neighborhood boundaries. And I think that data you did show us that those shape files are already in there, which is great because those have been around for a while. But really looking at neighborhoods and how can we best serve neighborhoods. And I think to the chairman's point, part of our community engagement needs to be to find out from folks, what are the actual lived neighborhood boundaries? I know we've got the city maps, but I think it will be important when we do the community engagement piece, which I think is critical, and I think we need to get scheduled very soon, is to hear from folks about what do they perceive as their neighborhood boundaries? What are the places of cultural and historical significance to their communities? And really give people a chance to talk about that. I know you've got some of the landmarks and stuff on here, which is great, and we'll definitely want to look at those. But I think that's going to be a critical component of the public engagement. And the sooner we get going with that, the better, because we are very much behind the ball. Even though we got the data a little late and we're getting it late uploaded into this program, we've known for 10 years that we were going to be in this situation. And we've known for 8-9 years that we were going to be reducing the wards. And so I know we've got our work cut out for us, but we need to be doing it right now. And I know a lot of us are making ourselves available however we can do that, because these conversations need to be happening. The public needs to be engaged, and these maps need to be available for people to be looking at and be able to, be giving some good constructive feedback on what we want this to look like, because we're going to be living with this, for the next 10 years. So I don't have any other questions. I just really wanted to convey the sense of urgency that I think we have here. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman. First, the data that we need to draw the map is in the system. Any of this other stuff we're talking about is just additional information that you and I or whoever, any community person may show up and say, what about this? So we would have that in there. So I want to be clear. The additional data that we're loading is not anything that prevents us from drawing maps today, right? This is my third time through this process. I've seen it go horribly wrong. I've seen it go correct, and everything in between, right? I've helped to create the National Council of presidents of city councils across the country. So we've had a lot of discussions over the years about the redistricting process and the process that we took here in the city of St. Louis versus what they've done in other cities and how theirs have failed and ours have come off correctly. So, it may seem onerous or whatever, but at the end, you know, anything that we are working on should be done, you know, out in the open. And this helps force it out in the open, because it's not like, you know, a bunch of you all will be sitting in the back room somewhere, huddled around a computer, creating a map that will ultimately be the map that disenfranchises, you know, the community at large and all of this other stuff, right? We need to make sure that we do this correctly. 10 years ago, there's nothing we could do. I mean, there's nothing we could have done in terms of drawing the map and working through this. We did not even know who would, you know, much about this day to day 10 years ago. And all the advents and things that have happened along the way, or what the population trends were going to be. We know that now. So it's also important that, you know, we keep an open, engaged process as much as possible, which is what we're doing. So I look forward to working with you and everybody to get this done, and the chairman.
All right, anything else, Alderwoman? All right, thank you so much. All right, Alderwoman Middlebrook, anything? Alderwoman?
I'm sorry, no, I have nothing, thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, any questions or comments? Alderwoman? Okay. We'll go back. Alderwoman Davis had your hand up. Another remark or question?
Oh, yes, sir. I wanted just to share a little bit more information, because I was fortunate enough to also work on the State Commission for Redistricting last time. And they didn't allow the commissioners for us to play around with the data. We didn't have access to it. The only way we had access to it was in working sessions with the appointed staff and technicians that worked with us as we were making decisions and asking questions and looking at data to move it around. And I remember locally that individually, we did not have access as alderpersons to be looking at data, moving things around or whatever. But in the collective process of alderpersons working together in groups, most especially, I think we had like 4 alderpersons at a time, because whoever touched your boundaries, we all knew those neighborhoods, and we had already gotten information from other people, leaders in our communities that we worked with. So it was good for us to be able to sit down together and make those decisions in that immediate area. This process is going to be a little more difficult, because you're really, instead of redistricting a ward in a way of speaking, you're going to be redistricting the entire city. And so I just know that we collectively must do this. It cannot be 10, 20 different processes going on at the same time, but it needs to be a collective effort. And the planning division has already done a lot of the legwork for us with this new process that they've been out in the neighborhoods, talking to people. They've drawn the maps. They got all the information on the various neighborhood associations, business associations, and whatever else. And that's going to be a tremendous help to us that we didn't have before. So I do appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to working with everybody on this. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Okay, Mr. President, I'm guessing when we get to the point where we are drawing lines and we come up with what will be a temporary version, could that temporary version be, you know, sent out for us in a hard PDF? Not that we could change, but so we would have something in our hands to look at and you know, get our crayons out at home with a piece of paper and finagle around with it.
Yeah, but so the actual drawing process will be an interactive process with members of the committee and whoever, just like what the other one from the 19th outline, the way we did last time, whoever the designee is to handle the actual physical drawing, right? And then where where there's questions that then yourself and the clerk will come into play. And the other thing I'll tell you, in some ways, when we're starting with a blank slate, when we're saying, okay, none of these current wards matter a lot, right? We are starting and just gonna draw this thing brand new. That can be an easier change, minus the fact that we're cutting the wards in half, right? But just the fact that we're starting with this blank slate becomes a, somewhat of an easier change opposed to adjusting these ward lines that people are so affixed to.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. There are no ward lines currently as far as we're concerned. I believe what we have is a carte blanche situation where this is 1914, where they're going to draw 28 lines. This is 2021. We're drawing 14 new wards. So, it's. I think we're all on the same page here. This is we just got off the boat and we just discovered this little city. We're going to draw 14 wards for it. So, so we have all the data. If there's nothing else anyone has, we will be meeting twice next week again. We're going to meet Tuesday at 11 and Thursday at 11. We'll probably be adding some, I'm going to get with the alderman from the 22nd, the vice chair, see what his schedule looks like. And probably Tuesday we'll be announcing some public hearings, in the evening. So folks who can't get with us this time of day can join in and we'll listen to that. I do have one, the portal, how is that going, Mr. President? Mary was setting the portal up to get going.
Yeah, I believe she has and I hate to speak for her, I haven't spoken to her this morning, but I know yesterday she was closing in on a good draft of the portal. Did anyone on the committee get an opportunity to send her any information? I think she has the draft ready to go, so we'll be able to send links out we'll send it to you and you can get it out to everyone. That'll be good.
All right. Well, I think we could pray upon Mr. Clerk to send it out to the members of the committee. He might be a little more IT savvy than myself.
All right, cool, excellent. So Mary, if you're on here, and I believe you are, if you can just have the send that link to the clerk and the clerk will get it out to everyone.
All right. I think if no one has anything else, that we've got a good deal of information today, and it's time to, let's see.
Start drawing some lines.
Yeah, we'll have fun. So we will excuse the absent alderman for necessary absence. Hear a motion on that?
I'm
sorry, Chairman, everyone is here today.
Oh, that's right.
They are. Yeah. Okay, I thought that's right. At the beginning, I had my notes, but they showed up after them. So all aldermen are present. And with that, we will move to adjourn to Tuesday, which will be October 26th at 11 a.m.
So I'll make that motion, we adjourn.
Okay, entertain a second.
Second.
And with that, all in favor say aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
All right, thank you all.
Motion passes. Thank you. See you tomorrow morning at the regular meeting. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.